Hello there, greetings, thank you for joining me today. Matt Customer Service back with another, cooking video. But we're not cooking today, not in the traditional sense. There'll be no cakes made, no main dishes. Today we're taking a crack at folk remedies. Now, I'm not sure how long this particular folk remedy has been in the mix for humanity. I recently encountered it on YouTube. One search too many, you might say. It's a folk remedy for more feminine curves, more feminine bottom, more feminine hips, more feminine breasts, a cream you can make at home and rub it on and get the results that your own endocrine system isn't giving you. There might be many reasons that your own body's not cooperating in giving you those curves you want. It could be diet, it could be illness, it could be lack of sleep. Never underestimate lack of sleep, of course, in the mix. It could be pure genetics, but you don't know. You don't know. And for many people, this is the way they get where they want to be. Now, there's some out there who would say, well, it's a folk remedy, isn't it? I mean, since we don't understand the processes, maybe a lot of it is all in the mind. And, well, you can't underestimate the power of the mind in driving human processes. That's how a lot of faith healing works. You've got to want to get better, and you've got to want certain things to happen. Because if the soul isn't with the process, then often it doesn't work as well as it would do if you're on board with it, so to speak. I hope that makes a lick of sense. It's about the 50th, 60th time I've taken a run at this video now. As you can guess, there have been some woefully inappropriate segues into this whole subject. I hope that's as tactful and kind as it needs to be. Now, my wife has many wise sayings, and one of those is that you should check your privilege at the door once in a while. And what she means by that is it's easy to cast aside remedies that don't affect you, so if you might well have the curves that you want, you might well have the lifestyle you want, you might well have, but for those who crave a certain thing that they just can't have by genetics, it's not for us to look down our nose at that want, at that need, at someone trying to do something to make their life better. And who knows, if it's been proven that you can extract hormones on an industrial scale and treat a whole range of conditions with that. So is it such a leap to wonder whether there aren't plant-based solutions that will do things just as well, maybe, or more gently, and cause less damage in the long run? We don't know. I think more research is required. Yeah. So stick with me. I'm moving to the kitchen now. So what drives this recipe? Well, there's 3 core ingredients when you look at most other videos on YouTube. Number 1, in the most common ingredient, is of course an oil. So we're using extra virgin olive oil, or you could use coconut oil, or any sort of food safe oil that you care to use. It's down to what you've got available in your kitchen generally. I would use a fresh oil rather than one that's been in the fryer for a while. Just saying. Next, there is something like fenugreek. That's the most common one seen. Now, fenugreek is a very interesting plant. You can get it in a couple of forms. You can grow it in your garden, of course, in which case you can use the whole plant, mince it up. But most commonly in the shops, you'll find it in dry forms. So you get something like, this one. It's reasonably affordable here in the UK. 100 grams of the minced up leaves, looks like tea leaves, for £1.19, which isn't bad at all. Or you can get the seeds, which tend to look like something like that, fenugreek seeds. Again, reasonably affordable. Well, I think they are, but you might have a different take on it. My recipe is going to be using both the seeds and the leaves, because why not? Fenugreek. Okay, so it has that. Now you've got to be careful with fenugreek, because fenugreek's been noted to lower blood sugar, amongst other things. So you've got to be careful with that, especially if you're someone who suffers from certain forms of diabetes. we're usually not brilliant with low blood sugars. You tend to suffer if you're a grumpy so-and-so in the morning. You might want to look at your blood sugar levels, because after sleeping all night, your blood sugar might be lower than expected. This is what doctors tend to like you to test for. If you've ever had a diabetes test and you're dragged in at the first thing in the morning, fast overnight since whatever, they're after finding out how low your blood sugar goes after a night of fasting, which is an indication of whether you're suffering or about to suffer from diabetes or not. So be careful with things like fenugreek, because if you eat enough of it, it's probably going to do you a mischief. It's been noted that this particular plant brings with it what's known as phytoestrogens, or so estrogens that aren't produced within the body, but they can have the same effect on a body or triggers certain processes such as the beta curves. So that's what that's trying to bring to this particular recipe. By the same token, we're also using the third ingredient, which is acacia seeds. Now, there are other seeds. I believe flaxseed is another one you could possibly use. Now, acacia seeds are very nutritious. They also thought to bring phytoestrogens to the party as well. So, two active ingredients can't be a bad thing. You can eat this. It's not very interesting to taste. It tends to be used ground up as a thickener in a lot of soups. So you might well ask, well, is it really active medicinally if people commonly use it as a soup thickener? I don't know. You tell me. But I managed to lay my hands on some, and it was spotting this in the supermarket that sent me off in this voyage of discovery, finding out what it was used for, and and here we are. So so there are two processes for getting the oil that you want. Basically, you're going to be combining those two, the fenugreek and the acacia seeds, all ground up. Put them in the oil and either allow the good stuff to seep out into the oil over a period of weeks and months in a dark place, or you go the slightly faster process where you heat the materials together in a bain-marie, and the extraction is sped up somewhat. That second process, the heated process, leaves me with certain doubts, because as you might be aware, by heating, we heat things to cook them. We cook things to break them down, so some of the good stuff might actually get damaged by the cooking process. Maybe worse than damage, maybe produce something dangerous. Probably not, though. Probably just going to get soup. But that's my concern. So I think maybe the best of the bunch is the cold press process. Because if you keep it in the dark in a reasonable, constant, cool temperature, you're probably going to get a decent result and the most extracted. I don't know. Time will tell. Anyway, onwards and upwards with this one. So when you look at the recipes out there, the instructionals out there, a lot of people neglect to mention the ratios or the amounts used. And there's a good reason for this. Number one, liability, and number two, everyone's different, and it's all down to what you've got available. It also is worth thinking about the way you might get variable results with different, if two women try a product, because of their biology, one might get a better result than another. You don't know. So I'm not going to give you ratios or measurements. You just work with what you can spare. I purchased 2 packets of these acacia seeds. I've ground up 1 packet. Where have they gone? Oh, there they are. I put them in a bowl. This other packet, I've got another plan for that, probably a cake or a soup or something, but I won't be using that in this project. As you can see, the coffee grinder made short work of this. It's quite clumpy, but that's because the acacia seeds are very oily. And I guess if you could crush the oil out, you could probably use it for something. The oil's part of the goodness. Yeah, so we're going to be using the whole of this. and I think I'm going to split it into two. I'll do half for the cold press and half for the warm press process. I'm going to add my own tweak to this recipe as well to bring a little burn, because the idea with this particular recipe is you rub it on, and you rub it on for long enough to get the blood flowing to the area you want to treat. Now, to help with that, you might want something to give you a little burn, shall we say? So ginger's quite helpful. Smells nice too. Cinnamon, I've got some old cinnamon there. It's starting to go, so that'd be useful. Again, it's for the flavour more than anything. And chili seeds, the missus recommended that. They're towards the end of their shelf life, so we'll use those, and those will add a bit of a burn and increase the blood flow. That's the theory anyway. As for storage, I'm going to store it in this. We've got a number of these hanging around. Chin time for gin. Yes, well, goodness. We don't drink gin. But these glass jars are rather useful. I just need to block that hole in the top. They all come with this wretched straw. Or I can put them in a little jar like that. They are clean, believe it or not. They're just a bit old. Okay, let's move on. Into the bowl go the okapi seeds, the dried fenugreek leaves, the ginger, couple of tablespoons of ginger, as much as I could spare, frankly. I want to make a ginger cake later on this week. It smells amazing, by the way, that ginger. Oh, wonderful. What else did I use? Oh, yes, and some of the pepper seeds. I used some of that, some of the capsicum to give that a little bit more burn. And finally, a bit of a shake of the cinnamon for extra flavour, just to make it smell nice. I decided to not use my olive oil because it's expensive. I'm going to use the slightly less expensive sunflower oil for this particular recipe, and not much of that either. And yes, I've ground up the fenugreek seeds, give them a quick whiz. They don't smell of much, to be fair. That's in the coffee grinder. In they go as well. And yeah, we don't use a lot of fenugreek in this kitchen. It's just not to our taste, frankly. But you know, you do you. This is what I can spare in this particular recipe. By the way, old stock generally is better to use for this sort of recipe, because you want to use your best stock for, well, for real cooking, don't you? And when you add some oil and mix it up. I probably need a bit more oil than that, don't I? Some oil, good quality oil. Again, not cooking oil straight out of the fryer. The oil was reduced in the reduced section. In there with a spatula to get it mixed up. Now, before I forget, you probably saw this. This is a natto oil. Sorry to be clickbaity. That one is one that my wife likes to use for frying certain things, shallow frying. It's made by taking some regular sunflower oil and heating it up with some natto, and it creates this lovely stained oil. It's got a slightly nicer flavour than the regular oil. It's good for frying things you want to give a good colour to. This is our standard feedstock, I suppose you'd call it, in this process. Mix it up nicely. It doesn't smell of much at this point because the oil tends to bind everything in there. I'm going to split it into two, one for the cold press, where it's just going to sit in a jar in a cupboard for a while, and the other one is going to be the warm process. This is our room temperature method, so half of the mixture goes into a jar like this, covered with a bit of cling film because this particular lid has a hole for a straw. I want to block that off. I'm going to leave it in the cupboard, in the dark, in the cupboard for about a month and see how it is when it's done. It might have gone off by that point. Most things go off if we leave them too long in our kitchen. Yeah, there's that. Now, if I was going to do the regular way of doing it with the heated method, I'd be using the bain-marie. But number one, I can't remember where I put the bain-marie. And number two, we've got an Argus, so it's got a hot oven, which is for baking, and it's got a simmering oven, which at the moment is quite a bit lower than its normal temperature anyway. Normally the simmering oven's not quite half the temperature of the roasting oven. So what I plan to do is just give the other mixture a shorter burst in a saucepan in the lower oven, and I'll come back to it and see how it smells. Yeah. And for the sake of completion, here's the heated one. Did about half an hour in the Arga. It's awfully murky. There's just oil in there, no water. No way of knowing which mixture is better, frankly. I guess you'd have to do devise some sort of test, really. Some sort of gas chromatography, maybe? I don't know. To determine what the active extract is and try and find out how much we've got in this one compared to the other sample. Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Anyway, I hope to see you very, very soon for another one of my videos. Whether it's cooking something folk medicine-y or who knows. Let me know if you've got any requests. Whatever you do anyway. Have a great day. Bye for now.